Hi, guys. My name is Michelle. Welcome to Life with Michelle. Have you ever been in a situation whereby you start comparing your life with other people? Yes. Have you? Because I know I have. Where you feel like, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be like Ruth, or I'm supposed to be like Sarah, or I'm supposed to be where uh, Paul is, but I'm not there. I'm kind of behind. You start making silent and subtle comparison with other people and their timeline. Most of the time it may not be yours, it could be some other people. Maybe you're looking for something desperately, you're married and you do not have a child, and people start asking, oh, don't you see this other couple? Why are you not having, why don't you want to have your own children? You start getting comparison. People start making comparison, with your life. And in that situation, you start feeling irritated. You start feeling like you're not enough or you're not doing enough. You start putting a lot of pressure on yourself. You start thinking, oh my God, maybe I'm a late bloomer, or you start blaming yourself or start looking for what to put the blame on. You start making funny remarks or start feeling insecure or start feeling as though you're not doing enough or you're not good enough. That's why they say comparison is a thief of joy, because it will steal your peace, it will steal the reason why you are living and you are happy. It will steal everything that makes sense to you, because all you'll be bothered about is comparing your life, your current life, with some other person that you think is flying. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, because a lot of us are on this table. We tend to make comparisons. It's silent most of the time and it's subtle. Oh, why am I not like Ruth? Why haven't I achieved this? But Ruth has. Oh, my peers are here and I'm here. It's subtle. And this is what I'm going to be addressing today, because I want to remind you that it's not every example that applies to your life. Yes, it's not every example that applies to your life. Just because something is working for someone else, okay, doesn't mean that that's what God is doing with you. Okay, we have different faces, we have different names, and just as our names are different, so is our lives, so is our journey, so is our path. You just need to know your own blueprint for you. Okay, my name is Michelle. You may be John, you may be Rita, you may be some other person. Okay, we all different, and we all have a part to play in our journey. It all depends on what you believe in, but at the end of the day, we are all different people with different life stories and different, even though we may be sharing similar experiences, we do not have the same path to where we are going. Okay, the Bible says in Galatians chapter 6, verse 4 to 5, that each person should examine their own work, not someone else's, not someone else's timeline, not someone else's results. Because we're always tempted, when some other person is celebrating, we tend to compare and make contrasts. You forget that the person has run their own timeline, and it's their time to celebrate whatever it is that they're celebrating, because you do not know what happened behind the scene. You do not know how many tears that has been shed to get to where they are. Maybe you are running your own race, or you are in that process that requires you to cry every night, but at the end of the day, you have gone through your process, and some other person, maybe when you've gotten to the point where you need to celebrate, some other person will be like, oh, why her, why not me, forgetting that there were nights you cried yourself to sleep. So it's very risky making comparisons with our lives, because at the end of the day, if we are going to exchange our lives, I don't think you'll be able to survive in the other person's story. So it's very risky to compare and contrast your life with some other person's life. It's very risky comparing your timeline with some other person's timeline because you do not know what they've had to bear along their journey. You do not know what they've had to deal with behind the scene. All you see is the glitz and the glam, but you have no idea the price that they had to pay to get to the glitz and the glam. So stop comparing your life with some other person's. What you need to do is look within, thank thank God on your journey and on your path, and walk on your own timeline. Because to be honest, that's the best for you. Your life is not meant to be measured against another person's outcomes. So if you're in that situation where you're, oh my God, you're measuring your, that's where the world and society, we always make this mistake. We always try to measure our own lives with the outcome of some other persons, and you end up missing the point. You end up losing focus. You end up forgetting who you are because you are looking at the timeline of your neighbor. You are looking at the timeline of your friend. You're looking at the timeline of your sibling. Okay, and in Psalm 139, verse 14, it says that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. If you are Christians, this is for you. Okay, and that includes your journey, that includes your timing. Okay, that includes the parts of your life that don't look like anybody else's. So when people start bringing comparisons, whether it's intentional or not, you have to be grounded enough to recognize it for what it is. Some advice is wisdom and some it's not. And some advice is just comparison that is dressed up nicely. So we need to be careful with who we listen to, and we need to be careful because most of the time we don't just come up and start comparing, okay? Sometimes it's what you hear. It's what you hear. So you need to protect your inner mind. You need to be able to build yourself internally to be able to recognize things like that. Because a lot of people come in is dressed up as advice, is dressed up as care and concern, but it's it's certainly not what it is. Okay? And you have to know the difference. You have to know the difference and walk with it. I'm learning to stop measuring my life by what I see in other people and start trusting what God is doing in mine, even when it doesn't fully make sense yet. Because at the end of the day, God is not writing a copy of someone else's story with my life. Okay? God is not writing he's not copying and pasting stories of all his children. No, he's not doing that. We are all unique and we are all different. And he is working on our own individual lives, making it unique. Making it very unique. So he is writing yours. He is writing your story. Which of course at the end of the day, it's always gonna be beautiful. It will be beautiful. Let me know in the comments and I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Have a good one, guys.